Back everyone. We are now on item 14, the hearings panel report on Gloucester Street. Sarah was the chairperson of the hearings panel and she is presenting her report.
Tēnā koutou katoa miki nui, kia koutou. So this is the Gloucester Street hearings panel report. So we had a panel that was made up of me and Councillor Mark Peters, who's unable to be here today, and Community Board Chair Emma Norris, who's Community Board Chair for the area. So back as far as 2012, with the Central City Recovery Plan and the Arts Precinct, there were upgrades indicated that would be needed for this particular stretch of street. So it wasn't a particularly new project when it first came to us. And I remember seeing things several years ago with proposals for upgrades here. So the panel was tasked with assessing the current design and the consultation feedback and making a recommendation on the future of this trial. We are unanimously recommending that the Gloucester Street layout is retained permanently, but with some changes to the original design to address community feedback. What we were not asked to do is to look back at the early parts of the process or any of those things or costings, but just for the future. The panel met twice in August and we undertook one site visit so we could really get a handle on the feedback that the community were giving. A lot of that was around visibility and those kind of things, so we wanted to see that in person. We received 251 formal submissions, with the majority of submitters supporting keeping the trial aspects in place, and we heard from just 8. Staff were asked multiple questions throughout the process, which informed the panel's recommendation, and a copy of these is there for all of you. The consultation began, early engagement began in September 22, with discussions held between businesses and organisations ahead of the trial taking place. And the official trial began on the 11th of December and ended on the 19th of February. Part of the trial criteria from Waka Kotahi was to make sure that we trialled things like closing the street off for events and various other activations. And during the trial period, we had the Morning People Rave, and I don't know if anyone else went to that, but it was a lot of fun. And the More FM Kinky Boots drag race, which sounded like fun, but I couldn't make. We have recommended changes to the original staff recommendation based on that community feedback. And there were things that we observed, so that the western entrance of the road, the Court Theatre end, didn't make it obvious for drivers entering Gloucester Street that it was a shared zone. So signage indicating that transition was requested. Street furniture was collecting litter and those kind of things and making the place look untidy, so additional street cleaning. A lack of connection between the stage and the seating, and so we've actually suggested that the stage be moved. And just at our Court Theatre visit the other day, we became aware that actually that site that's being used for the staging area between Court Theatre and the Theatre Royal might be a good place for that to go to, which is adjacent to it right now. And submitters had pointed out that the planter boxes in front of the press building limited visibility for accessing those. So we've recommended that they get swapped over, because the one on the other side of the road had no hedge and was a much lower with better visibility. There's also additional car parking going in outside Court Theatre, including a mobility park and time-limited parking. There were a lot of requests from people who wanted to be able to pick up kids or books and things from Tūranga and needed more than the sort of couple of minutes that were available with the one park outside Tūranga currently. So there's, I think, 4 10-minute parks there. Court Theatre were also really supportive of the project and of the limited time parking outside. Makes it really useful during the day for people picking up tickets or booking tickets for shows. But that would only be during the daytime, so it would provide some space later. People were concerned about Tūranga parking. There is some 5-minute parking on the square side, but it's not particularly visible and it's often used for hotel parking. And so we've asked for some work to be done there as well to make people aware that they can park there for 5 minutes and pick up books. And staff are here to address any specific technical questions, but apart from that, we're recommending that it stays with those changes.
Okay.
Thanks, Tim.
Okay, so have we got any questions? We haven't got any questions. Samuel?
Probably for the finance. Yeah. Cool. Thank you. Hey, I'm just trying to understand. So the cost of the recommended option, the 36 grand annually above BAU, it mentioned in there around that it was based on doing the road markings every 5 years. But in the response we got this morning, it says we're doing them every 2 to 3 years. Unless I've got that wrong. It's on my phone, so I'm just trying to understand whether the cost is what the actual cost is.
I'm sorry, I can't remember exactly how long we said. It's definitely an annualised cost for an occasional refresh. Yes.
Yeah. So it says so it does say in there the 5 years for the 36 grand, but it says in the one if we were to go down the other path,
Yeah.
that we could leave them on there and they'd wear out in 3 years.
Well, yes. I mean, it's rough and it depends on the number of vehicles that go down there. I'm sorry, I probably slightly messed up, but generally, that kind of road marking, you normally expect to have an asset life of about 3 years, but given the road volumes down there, it probably would last a little bit longer.
Okay. And the only other one, two things. The morning rave, which was the 20 grand, and I don't know if there's... Oh, yeah, the comms. How many people went to that?
I think it was maxed out at 1,000 and we sold out.
Right. Okay. And then just the last one is just around the cost to remove the 173 plus the 10 grand of contingency. Can someone just talk me through the procurement process? Do we get multiple quotes on something like that? It just seems high.
At the moment, we haven't. So we've used the maintenance contractor for the area to do the work,
Right.
and they've given us that lump sum price. There may be options to look at it as we gave you some information this morning about potential options to remove the physical features. And the other thing we've been looking at is some kind of microsurfacing treatment, which in reality would probably be cost neutral, but it would extend the asset life as well. So
cool. Thank you.
there are options in that space.
Thanks.
Jake?
The 240 of remaining budget, that can be used to obviously offset the ongoing costs. What happens to that money if we were to remove the project? The 240 remaining money from the 1.4 total?
Yeah. I mean, that stays against the project. I suspect if there was money left over, it would be reallocated across the transport programme.
Right, okay.
Victoria?
Thank you. My first question is a supplementary then to Jake's. If it doesn't proceed today and we choose to remove it, can that 240 be allocated for the removal costs?
Yes, yeah. I mean, that's what it's there for, yeah.
Okay. Can I just get some clarity then on the relocation of the stage and the seating? Hearing what Councillor Templeton said, looking at another space there by the Court Theatre, if we can't relocate it in the Gloucester Street precinct, is the recommendation that it just goes somewhere else in the city and doesn't form part of Gloucester Street?
We were hoping that it would go nearby, so there are a couple of options. There is a small pocket park adjacent to it currently. That's private land, but it's a council kind of pocket park, and there's the potential for it to go there. There's now the new site that we own on Gloucester Street. Once Court Theatre staging area is no longer needed, that's going to be probably done up as a nice wee park that would be suitable for it. It might go somewhere else. The thing is, the original plan had the stage and the seating much closer to each other, and then there was a request for that to be moved further back, and so there's a bit of a disconnect and it's not well used.
Okay, and so staying on the issue with the stage, other than the council-initiated events on that stage and the events on the street that were initiated by council, has anyone else used it as a performance space or the street for other public purposes?
We had a couple of requests, but we didn't monitor it the whole time. So I know in my inbox I talked to a couple of different performers that used it or at least wanted to use it, but we don't have a definitive on that.
Okay.
The street furniture was used even while we did our site visit. So there were people who sort of popped out of the library, a dad with a couple of kids who.
It's
just
mainly
sat
the
sat down
stage on It's mainly the
Yeah,
stage
yeah.
I was concerned about. I
Yeah.
wanted to know that. I've also got a question in relation to, must have been question 20 of councillors' requests on page 161, where it talks about the engagement with Fens and St John. And I just note in the staff comments that, can I just bear with me, I want to find it so I can make sure I've got it correct. Here we go. Emails and a video call with Fens about the project, final remarks work. They're okay with the proposal for the layout at the stage, but if it was a more permanent solution, then they would expect there to be further discussions about that. So now that we've got the proposal for this to be permanent, have there been any other further discussions with Fens?
No. So if it's to stay in, we can give them an update. But the look of the street hasn't changed. That was more in relation to originally this project was a trial before a different permanent solution, including no curb and channel. So when we talk about a permanent solution, that's what it was referring.
Yeah, with respect, I think that's a bit of license there, because anyone who's commented on this has commented on this as a temporary trial. But I think the implication there is that they would be further consulted if it was to be made permanent.
That's not how it was intended, but yes, we can look back into with them.
Sorry, that wasn't a question. Sorry, a bit of license there, Mr. Mayor. Apologies to everybody.
Maybe
I
a
had
bit of debate, was it?
I've got another question then about number 25. I'm having a bit of difficulty reconciling the staff advice in relation to the review in 6 months. In the first paragraph there of the staff's comments, you say that you support the recommended approach, but then in the next part of that box, you say everything to suggest that it's probably not a good idea and that it's of limited value. So I'm really struggling to understand whether you support a review or not.
We're very happy for there to be a review. The point is we won't have any empirical data to support that. In the monitoring and evaluation report measured a whole set of metrics about how the street was being used, and that will not continue. I mean, that's been quite an expensive process. So to carry that on for another 6 months.
It does beg the question of whether there's any point of the review if there's not going to be any evaluation or monitoring or engagement over it. So what really is the point of it?
We would still have feedback from our traffic engineers, and members of the public would still send in hybris tickets, and you as elected members would still be able to use the street and give feedback on your feelings about it.
And can you confirm then that even if they do give feedback and they want some changes, that there's actually no money on budget, there's no money for consultation or anything like that at this stage?
At this stage, no, there isn't.
Thanks. And then the other one is just resolution number 8. I'm just querying about that being included when staff have said that it's outside the scope of this project.
That can be looked at by our area engineers, so it will be done outside the project anyway.
Thank you.
Yanni, hello.
Thank you. Thank you for the report. I was interested, I think I read somewhere that we didn't monitor the traffic impact of the surrounding streets. Is that true?
We did, yeah. The monitoring evaluation report has data from surrounding streets, yeah.
And so did we see an increase in traffic on surrounding streets? And if so, to what extent, particularly Armour Street?
No, so originally we reported that there'd been a 40% increase on Armour Street. That was incorrect. We spoke to the hearings panel about that issue. There's actually a very slight drop in the number of vehicles on Armour Street, but it's not particularly significant. So overall, it doesn't appear to have made much difference to the surrounding streets.
Yeah. The second question is, we used to have a project in the LTP. Can you just remind us how much that project was for the permanent solution?
Off the top of my head, I don't know. I think it was in the region of 2.5 million.
Right. And my understanding was, as a condition for having got the Streets for People funding, we had to have a permanent project on the budget.
which at the time we did. We did. So that was removed during the last
At that
LTP
point-
period.
Right. And so if we continue with this project as it is, or if we remove it, there was previously consideration that NZTA might not give us the full funding that we've spent on it. Has there been any update to that advice that we had previously around what the likely cost is to the ratepayer if we go with whichever option in terms of NZTA's funding?
NZTA won't fund anything from this point onwards. From the costs from the 1st of July onwards are entirely at council's cost. I don't believe funding before that is at risk.
Sorry, just to be really clear then. So does that mean that the additional 240k that's remaining in the project budget is coming from ratepayer, not Waka Kotahi?
Yes, it is, yeah. And that had a zero assumption in the LTP as well.
So, sorry, that had a zero assumption.
A zero
did you say?
assumption of subsidy when we did the LTP. So it's always been assumed to be 100% ratepayer funded.
So if we went and said that we wish to go with the recommended option, effectively we're paying more than 90% of this project. How much are we paying then?
Probably we would end up paying slightly more than 90%. I'm sorry, off the top of my head, I don't have those figures.
Right.
In the memo that you got the funding from NZTA. That is what we will get now. So that won't go up. So it could be worked out. But sorry, I haven't got the numbers to hand.
Right. Okay. But sorry, I just the cost to implement is 110k. That's coming out of the 240k remaining in the budget, and then we're spending 36,000 a year to do the maintenance, and that's again coming out of the 240k.
No, that would become an ongoing operational cost.
Right. And how does sorry, final question from me. How does the 36,000k per year compare to other streets in terms of maintenance budgets? Like, do we have a sort of annual cost per street maintenance budget for just regular streets or other central city streets?
I don't off the top of my head. I assume it would be quite high because the road art is quite a large cost.
Right. Okay. So effectively, if we were concerned about the high maintenance cost, we would vote against the road art that support the other things, and that would reduce the maintenance.
Yes, I think that's probably a fair conclusion. Yeah.
What would it do to the safety?
Thank you.
Other aspects?
Okay,
Suppose is it worth reminding councillors what our decision options are here? So I
yeah,
support-
just about. Yeah.
Sorry.
Mary was actually going to butt in and tell us what we. If it can only correct me if I'm wrong. It can only go back to the hearings panel. We can't. The hearings panel got the ultimate say. Is that right?
I'm probably the wrong person to ask, but my understanding is that you've got three options here, which are that you can accept the hearings panel recommendation, you can send it back to the hearings panel, or you can reject the recommendation altogether, which is when it will be removed. So
Zone 2, I think.
So our current practice, although it's not required legislatively or anything, our current practice is it gets sent back to the hearings panel. We are bringing to the council a potential variation to that prospect, but today the current practice should stand that you either accept it or you send it back to the hearings panel.
That's all we've got.
Sorry, point of clarification. Rather than custom and practice, what does the legislation allow us to do? I'm talking against my own self-interest.
We'll come back with some advice around the nuances of that.
Okay.
So,
All right. Okay, so we have Timothy.
Thank you. Not forgetting that this was kind of envisaged way back in 2012, and it was for a safe pedestrian connection between Tauranga, Tupai and the Performing Arts Precinct. With that in mind, are we going to stay regularly in touch with, when the court is up, the Court Theatre and also the Isaac Theatre Royal? Because I know that the Theatre Royal are enjoying what's being done with their visitors, so the customers. So is that in a program of works or just in a process? Because it is all about the Performing Arts Precinct and its connection south to Tauranga and across the road to Te Pai?
So council as a whole has a team that stay in contact with those stakeholders on a regular basis. It probably wouldn't be the transport team directly, but council as a whole does stay in touch with those stakeholders anyway.
Because the principle of this whole thing was safe connection between those four major, and technically it's only the Isaac Theatre Royal that's up and running at the moment, but that's the principle behind this, isn't it? And do you think it's been achieved?
That's for you to judge, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Well, feedback that I've had from the Isaac Theatre Royal and others is that yes, it has. So, but I mean, I was just, yeah.
Right, sorry. Victoria?
Thank you. Carrying on with the Isaac Theatre Royal, on page 163, where we're looking at question 29 asked by Emma Norrish about are there enough P5 parks outside the Theatre Royal?
Which question, sorry?
Question number 29 on page 163.
No, thank you.
So the question was, are there enough P5 parks outside the Theatre Royal for the drop-off and pick-up requirements? The statement there is staff are not aware of any specific issues being raised by the Isaac Theatre Royal in relation to the trial. That's very different to an answer which says there are no issues. So it begs the question, has someone actually asked the Isaac Theatre Royal whether there are sufficient Park 5s outside their theatre?
Let me find their submission, because I do believe that they spoke to it. Apologies, it was a wee while ago.
Yeah, I raised the issue simply because I'm often have to transport my mobility impaired mother-in-law, and needing to drop off and pick up immediately outside a venue is absolutely critical. So I'd appreciate some clarity on that. Thank you.
Okay, good. Jake? Okay, Aaron?
Yeah, thanks, Phil. Just a quick question on what were the numbers of car parks on Gloucester Street prior to the quakes? I know it's changed a couple of times since, but do we know the total of available?
Prior to the quakes, no, we don't. Not off the top of our head, no.
Right. Okay. And then to Tim's points about the connection between Tauranga and the convention centre and the theatre, has there been incidents where people have been at danger crossing between the various sites? Like, are we trying to sort a problem that exists or doesn't exist yet?
So that's probably one for Hannah. So if you can hold on, Will. She's just
cool,
she's just getting an answer to the question before, and then we'll come back to that.
Okay.
Oh, you'll come back to that? Okay. And then
yeah,
the
if
other
you
one
can
is,
just give us a second.
at any point, have the court theatre said that they can operate a successful theatre with as little parking as possible around it? Did they mention that?
The court theatre did come and speak to us, and they were supportive of this, and did ask for that time limited. They did ask for the time limited parking in front, so that people could pick up and drop off tickets. They did express concern about the overall parking for the precinct, but not on street parking per se. Right.
So has their view changed since several hundred of them contacted us around the lack of parking in the area last? About 18 months ago?
No, but that particular one, remember, was about off-street parking, not on-street parking.
Yeah. Yeah, and they were assured that it was being built in the Catholic precinct, was where all the off-street parking was going to go. So given that that's not looking the greatest...
Actually, you'll recall that we've just had an update on that. Just recently.
Right.
Just after.
Yeah.
Right. So the multi-level car park on Armour Street is going ahead? Is that the update? Because that wasn't the one I heard.
I said off-street car parking. I didn't say multi-level. But we've had an update
Right,
on
but
that.
it was the multi-level one that... Yeah. So the theatre were assured the multi-level one would be able to take the capacity for the theatre, where 90% of their clientele drive to the theatre, and the cities and the country's investing $50 million into a theatre project, the most successful theatre in the country, which will be inaccessible. But
Aaron, can I just clarify? Yep. The court theatre came and they were supportive of this project.
Okay.
Right. Okay.
And that's what's relevant for the decision today.
So,
sorry, can I just add to that as well? So we've been dealing with them on the Colombo Street footpath upgrade as well, and they've given us feedback on parking there. So there'll be additional parking going in on the section of Colombo Street footpath, which is currently behind the hoarding.
Where the fence is.
Which
Yeah.
is not part of this project.
Yeah, which is not part of this project, it's a separate project, but just to note that they have fed
we
back on
have-
that.
Okay, can I just ask, how's that additional when traditionally that road's been parking from one corner to the other? You can't add more cars, or are we going to angle parking?
Can I please clarify that it's additional to the car parking that is currently there in the trial, which is what the hearings
right,
panel
since we took most
it's
of
what the
parking out of
hearings
units.
panel were
Okay,
tasked
makes
about
sense,
doing.
Makes sense. No, it's
Yeah.
good. It's good. It's good.
Okay, doke. So we have a mover and seconder.
Sorry.
Sorry.
Do you want us to answer?
Yes, please.
Councillor
Yes.
Henstock?
So I've just found the Isaac Theatre Royal submission, Councillor Henstock, and they didn't raise any concerns around parking within their submission. And also from my notes from the engagement, the various meetings with them throughout the trial and consultation, they didn't raise any concerns to do with parking numbers.
There we go.
Okay. Sorry, I just noticed you've got your hand up again, Yanni. Please.
Sorry, I just wanted to really be clear about in the memo. It says that there's $98,000 in the permanent Gloucester Street project that's going to be used for this project, and I thought we'd deleted that project from our LTP. So, can someone just help me understand the difference between the temporary project and how there's permanent project funding also available?
So the permanent project funding was removed from the LTP, but there was funding in FY24 which was unspent and carried forward.
So effectively, we carry forward funding that we hadn't used, even though we deleted the project.
Yeah.
Because
Right.
we
Does
because
that
we knew
make
that
sense
there was
to anyone?
because we knew that there was this project here. That was through a process, Yanni, that as councillors we signed off on.
Right. Oh, okay. Yeah, and just I guess like concern at the high cost of maintenance. Is there an ability, like obviously I need to move an amendment around the art? Is that, do we just move an amendment to leave it in
Can't move an
place?
amendment, you reject, you accept or send back.
Yes, no.
Oh, okay.
I mean,
Can I just ask a question then? So if so the street art is part of what brings the amenity but also helps slow down the traffic in the area. What happens if we remove all of that street art and the indications and things?
I couldn't answer that right now. I'd need to go and speak to the design team.
Yeah. But it would have an impact on the project as a whole.
It would likely have an impact on the project as a whole. I suspect it would probably lead to slightly higher speeds, but I can't say without.
Yeah. And the Theatre Royal and others were supportive of the paint, being that they were involved in the design and all of those kind of things.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah.
So effectively, because it's going to come back in 12 months anyway, and we're not going to have to repaint the art within the next year to 2 years, we will get another chance to kind of look at what that cost might be in terms of maintenance. We're not making the ongoing maintenance decision today, are we?
Can I just clarify? It's not coming back in 12 months, Yanni. It's 12 months after the full design is implemented, and that won't be until the court theatre's opened, because the hoardings and things go down, and then the parking goes in, and then it takes a while for it to be in its final state.
Right. So if we make the decision today to support it, we're agreeing to $36,000 a year for the street into the future.
Yep.
Yeah.
Potentially that much. I note that we haven't spent that much on touching up things like Ferry Road and stuff with its paint. So
Are you wanting to get rid of the art in your profile photo?
Pardon me, mate?
To Yanni. You wanting to get rid of the art in your profile photo?
I can't hear him.
I'm just concerned at $36,000 a year being spent. It just seems to me a huge amount of money when we're very constrained in terms of our budgets. We're unable to do basic maintenance in a lot of areas in my ward, but we've got $36,000 to do what seems to be a very high standard of maintenance.
Are we now in debate?
We might.
So surely there's a way that we can look at that going forward, right?
Okay, Yanni, that's debate, and we're just about to enter it. So it's got a mover and seconder. I had no more questions. Thank you very much. So we'll do debate. You want to go first, Yanni?
I'll wait to hear what others say. I'm still thinking.
Okay.
About it. I'd like to listen to them debate.
Debate Department. Timothy.
Yeah, look, this has been envisaged for quite a long time. When you say, was there a need? It's not just about traffic safety, it's about the whole visual impact of an arts precinct. To sit there and do nothing here when we've got this beautiful library, we've got Te Pai, we've got the Isaac Theatre Royal, which is one, if not the greatest classical theatres in this country, and we've got the new Court Theatre. To sit there and just have the plain old road is just sad. To say that, you know, like, was there a risk? There's always a risk crossing a road, no matter where the road is. But to upgrade this and to look at what that's done has really added to this precinct, and it will continue to do so. So I think it's nothing's perfect. We're all human. We all have different tastes or whatever. And I mean, I'm colourblind, so, you know, whatever I see, no one else does. But I think it's a great thing to do, and we've got to move forward. And that's what's really pushing the city forward, is thinking outside the box. And everybody else in this country is looking at Christchurch with envy, and this is why. So thanks to the staff for the work you've done.
Ty?
Thank you, Tim. That's actually inspired me to want to also speak in support of that, because Gloucester Street used to be, I mean, a main thoroughfare of Christchurch, but somebody plonked the Te Pai, the convention centre, in the way. So now it's a road to nowhere, okay? I mean, I quite like Te Pai, but, you know, the reality is it's cut Gloucester Street off in two. And so if you've turned down Gloucester Street in your car, expecting to go somewhere, you're evidently lost. Look, I just opened my browser today and there was this lovely article on RNZ that said, is Christchurch now the coolest place in Aotearoa? And it's got liberal sprinkling of quotes from our eminent mayor that says, who hailed the city's potential as a mini Melbourne. You know, like, this isn't a perfect thing, right? Like, it's temporary, it hasn't nailed everything. You can nitpick about what's wrong with it and what's right with it and all that sort of stuff, but we've tried something, right? That's the key thing. We've actually tried to do something, and I think that it's helping to create a city that we can live in, that is for people and that we can all enjoy, and, you know, and that is actually improving our city and turning it into that thing that's making it so cool. And we're building for the future, and we've been incrementally building that back for the last decade and a bit. And we're immensely proud of this great city that's emerging. You know, I don't expect anybody calling the shots in the North Island to understand that, but we understand, because, you know, this is just shows the potential for our city. You know, that this is a small thing, but it is actually part of a larger thing, and that's why I would ask you all to support it, because we actually need to continue to innovate and celebrate that and keep on innovating, even if we don't get it right all the time. So please support it, and I look forward to the next type of project that we do in this regard.
Pauline?
Well said, it's hard to top that, but just refer to, I don't know when it was, last week or the week before, that we had a tour through the Court Theatre building, which obviously is in construction, and it's just incredible. And so by the time we get the Court Theatre operating and the Isaac Theatre operating, and you've got Tūranga, and they all have children's activities, a lot of them. So I think to make Gloucester Street a slow street, a safe street, an interesting street is a really, really good move for Christchurch. Once you're down there looking at it, it's a really nice place to be. So I'm fully supportive of this today, and I think we also need to recognise the hearings panel for all the work. It does take a lot of work to be on a hearings panel. We've done a good job. It's a great report, and the suggested changes I support those as well. But that's over to staff to give advice on that going forward. So thank you very much, and I'll support this today.
Okay, so we now have Pauline. Aaron, please.
Yeah, I'd just like to say I'm actually very supportive of the Performing Arts Precinct, and the whole concept of the area makes a lot of sense, and all the words that have been said about how cool Christchurch is, how much it's going ahead, how we can compare ourselves to Melbourne and places like that. Absolutely true, but let's not forget the overwhelming feedback that we get, not some of you because you live in an echo chamber, but so for us that get out and hear from a lot of people, the overwhelming feedback we hear is that the inner city is inaccessible, and the one thing we're not doing right is access to the inner city parking, on-street parking and on-street traffic flow. Now, you can ignore that if you want, but the reason I didn't join this hearings panel is because I didn't want to get another code of conduct against me, because I knew how it would go when I saw the lineup, and that was my second to last code of conduct, was for speaking out against that. And I tend to go with the public on this one, that they want their inner city, the facilities that they've paid absolutely millions, if not billions of dollars for collectively, to be accessible. They want to be able to take their grandmother, their children to these things. People don't catch the bus. They don't bike to these things. 90% of people drive to these facilities. So we need to facilitate that. But it seems that some councillors would rather be dictators than facilitators. So I will sit with the facilitators this time, and hopefully we will vote this down and make the street more accessible, so we can have a very successful performing arts precinct. Thanks.
Thank you. Right. My Celeste.
I just want to start by thanking the hearings panel. I always think it's good when you get, a group that comes together and works through a process and is really thorough. And I just want to acknowledge all the people that participated in that. And I also would like to just sort of acknowledge the fact that in order for what makes our city particularly cool is the fact that we have parts of the city which are pedestrianised currently, and we've seen the improvements around a lot of those spaces. I think that some of the reactions have been a bit over the top, to put it politely. And I think if we want to move forward as a city, we have to accept that that requires some changes, and that might be at the cost to being able to drive to the front door of the Court Theatre or some other space. But actually, what are we gaining? And that's what we should be focusing on today, is accessibility isn't just driving to the front door, it's actually providing spaces that are safe for all users. So I just want to commend the hearings panel for the work on this, and I'm looking forward to supporting this today.
Okay, my turn then, you're last. Okay. This is democracy. In my opinion, it wasn't necessary in the first place, but it got voted on and it went through. One of the things that, way back in the day, one of the things was, the government are paying us 90% towards it and it's temporary. I would almost guarantee that this will never happen again under this new government. Also, the main thing that I'm struggling with is the cost to remove it, whether it's $230,000 or $240,000. I believe is artificially high, and it's to encourage us to agree to leave it in, because those numbers are there. But the hearings panel made their decision. We have two options in front of us. Yes, we agree with the hearings panel, or no, we fire it back at the hearings panel. That's all we've got. We've got nothing else. I wonder if...
Sorry, point of order. Sorry, I'm just checking to see if you were accusing staff of fudging the numbers.
No, the numbers are not fudged.
Okay.
The numbers are not fudged. The numbers are 230 grand. Yes.
Yeah, but you said you thought it was artificially increased by staff to get an outcome.
I have asked a number of times for staff to give me the exact breakdown of how we got the 230 grand. I have not got that yet. I've got most of it, but I haven't got the main bit from the contractor on how it is. If we'd gone, in my view, if we'd gone back to the contractor and said, we want to leave the paint there, there was no thing to, no one was looking at how we can make it cheaper, right?
You should clarify that you weren't accusing staff of being dishonest.
I weren't. No, I weren't. And no, I weren't, and I wouldn't. They're just putting the information in front of us like they've got it, okay? I still believe that if we left the paint on, it could easily be done for 50 grand. But that's life, that's all we've got. The one thing that I do struggle with is still, and it's not just here, it's on lots of things, how much we're spending on consultants to design this stuff. We have plenty of clever people in our building that could do this with their eyes shut. This is a simple job. There's nothing hard about it. So going forward, we should look at not using consultants to do spending a fortune on simple things. But I cannot support this because I'm not happy with the information that I've got on how the 230 grand was established. That's about it. Yanni, is it?
There's no ways to see it.
Yanni.
Thank you. Look, as someone who was concerned at the high cost that council had put for the permanent work to happen on Gloucester Street, I think it is far more sensible to be spending as little as money as possible with flexible options in terms of what happens in this space. And effectively, that's what this project has done. We've got a number of things that are happening currently, but we've also got a number of things that are going to happen into the future, including the opening of the Court Theatre, which will have a significant impact on how the street functions. And until that time, I don't think we can really know what the outcomes of these changes will be. But my preference would be to spend as little money as possible now on this project, given how much has already been spent, recognizing that that was a lot less than what council wanted to do in terms of the permanent changes. And I think we can, as we've done with Park Terrace, find more flexible, low-cost solutions to roading and transport traffic changes in these areas, rather than spending some of the massive amounts of money that we are, like, for example, Te Kaha, which is another one where we're spending a fortune. So, I think this is welcome in terms of the ability to use the Waka Kotahi money to get some improvements to make it safer and provide greater pedestrian amenity. I'm a big supporter of arts and colour and vibrancy in our central city, but I do look forward to the Working Party reporting back on how we can look at how we're spending money, because I think the maintenance costs that have been identified are significant, and it does gall me that there's other streets in our suburbs in particular where we struggle to get the basic maintenance done. And if anyone wants to come and look at some of those streets with, stagnant water, green stuff growing out of them, and we're told there's no budget, then, feel free to come on a tour. But I will support this today, and I do commend the hearing panel for the work they've done. Just noting, though, that when the tree policy hearing reported back to council, significant numbers of changes were made by the full council and the mayor to the recommendations of that panel. So it'd also be good to get some advice so that we're consistent with how we make decisions, because again, it does seem a bit unfair that we can't make changes, and maybe we got it wrong on that one, but it is quite different to what's happening with this one, where we're told we can't move any amendments. Thank you.
Okay, Kelly, then Sarah will be last.
Yeah, thanks very much. I'm broadly supportive. I was down in the precinct on the weekend. I thought it worked pretty well. I do have a couple of concerns just around. It's really important that we have these sort of spaces where pedestrians and all users can feel free to be safe as they walk around the city. I think we have a few issues, though, getting people into these areas, and I think that I certainly would like to see more opportunities for people from the suburbs to come in and park close. I didn't have a problem because there was really just the one event in there on the weekend, but I could see that being a problem. I'm concerned about ongoing costs. It's the sort of thing that I feel like makes us look a wee bit silly if we're paying $36,000 a year for repainting on average. I applaud the work of the hearings panel, having been on a few. It's a bit of a thankless task, but you do get to see all the ins and outs and get a general feel of what's important. I do like the idea down the track of actually the hearings panel decisions coming to council and then council making the decision. I think that's the way forward. It involves a lot more people in the decision-making process. But I'm relatively happy with what we're trying to do here, but concerned about the ongoing costs. And again, a wee bit concerned that we have to make sure that we can get people into the city and then out again as simply as possible. Buses, cars, whatever it takes, but so they can walk some distance. All right, cheers.
Sorry, Celeste, I did. Yes, sorry, I haven't crossed your name. Sarah, please.
Kia ora koutou. Thanks for the debate. I don't think that anything else needs to be said, except for me to thank staff who've done a huge amount of work on this, including plenty of redesign, which added to costs in the early days on council request. But thank you very much, and I'm happy for you to put it.
Okay. So, now what just so that we're on the right track here, if we vote yes, it's yes, what you see in front of you, and if we vote no, it goes back to the hearings panel. Okay, there's nothing else we can do. Right, so I'll put that motion. All those in favour? All those against?
No.
Right, it passed.
No.
Division.
Righto then. Go, Katie.
Alright, so we'll have a division on item 14, the Gloucester Street trial hearings panel. Deputy Mayor Carter. Councillor Barber.
Yes.
Councillor Coker.
Yes.
Councillor Donovan. Yes. Councillor Fields.
Yes.
Councillor Harrison Hunt.
Yes.
Councillor Himstock. No. The Mayor.
No.
Councillor Johansson.
Yes.
Councillor Keelan.
No.
Councillor McDonald.
No.
Councillor McClellan.
Aye.
Councillor Moore.
Yes.
Councillor Scandrett.
Aye.
Councillor Templeton.
And Councillor Peters is here.
Oh, sorry. Councillor Peters, you joined on Zoom?
No.
Okay, that's, yep. All good. That's carried. Thank you very much.
Could I just ask a question through the Mayor? Due to the comments made with regards to the possible leaning of a hearings panel, and there have been a number of other comments over the last few months with regards to working parties, subcommittees and hearings panels in the past, could we look at, through you, Mary, at how we select them rather than having people asked and volunteered? We just have a list of councillors and they have to do it, because that would be sharing the load, because it is, and I appreciate the workload of those chairing and also being on it, and I think it's really unfair and shallow for other councillors to accuse councillors of having a leaning before it even starts.
Okay, right. Thank you. We're now moving on to number 15, the DRF fund.